Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here, also known as ETCG1 on this here channel. Here on ETCG1 we talk about stuff, we don't do repair videos, so please don't leave comments about why this is not a repair video. Instead, go to the description, click the link to the Eric the Car Guy channel, go there and watch repair videos. Go on. For the rest of you sticking around, welcome to the conversation, and if it's your birthday, happy birthday. Today's topic comes to us from the suggestion box, like many topics have been coming from these days. I'll put a link in the description to that just in case you have a suggestion of your own. But this one comes from JJRobs399. I think I said that correctly because I can't always read my handwriting that well. And what he had suggested was doing a video about the difference between mechanics and technicians. Yes, there is a difference to some degree, and I would say I can easily sum it up visually by mechanics, technicians. So mechanics would mostly use these, technicians would mainly use these. And yes, of course, they would use both because there is some crossover between the two, but similar to the medical profession, auto repair has specialists, and some of those specialists specialize in certain things like electronics and performance diagnosis, and I would refer to those people more as technicians. And especially with the proliferation of computers in modern vehicles, there are several computers. In fact, I think in some Mercedes there's something like 90 different computers that are all talking to each other, and a complete network of them that all work together to get you down the road from point A to point B. There's all kinds of electronic systems, and those electronic systems, those computers, they get handled and addressed differently than, say, the mechanical systems of that vehicle. Yes, the electronics are most likely tied into those mechanical systems, but the person that is going to work on those systems, I think there's a differentiation between those two. Your mechanics are mostly doing tire and lube work, that type of thing, or basic mechanical work, engine R&Rs, transmission R&Rs. But then when you get into the fine minutia of things, when you start breaking it down, take for instance somebody that might rebuild an automatic transmission. I would put them more on the technician side than the mechanic side. Particularly modern automatic transmissions have a lot of electronic controls that need to be considered during the rebuild. Also, I liken automatic transmission rebuilding to brain surgery. It's one of the most complicated, complex mechanical systems on the vehicle, and as I mentioned, a lot of electronics. So even though that might be a mechanical device, I would put somebody who specializes in automatic transmission more in the technician category. And I'm not trying to put an intelligence cap on this, so to speak, because you can be extremely intelligent and very mechanically inclined. Taking things apart, for instance. There's a certain art to that. There's a certain finesse to that. And I'm not saying technicians aren't capable of it, and I'm not saying mechanics aren't capable of technical work. What I'm saying is you tend to specialize. And your forte might be taking things apart and putting them back together. Let's face it, doing an engine job, you're taking hundreds of things apart and putting hundreds of things back together, and at times it's a miracle that it gets back together and it runs at all. That takes a great deal of mechanical skill. And like I said, not to take anything away from the mechanic and talking about their intelligence, I'm talking more in general terms as far as the people who would be considered technicians over the people who would be considered mechanics. These days, I would argue, and I'm going to put it to the group here, that all people working in the mechanical fields should be referred to as technicians. And I say this because of those electronics that I spoke of earlier and the proliferation of those in just about everything. It seems like even using your radio, your instrument cluster, all seems to have some kind of control unit that it's tied into. Even doing a brake job sometimes these days, bleeding a brake system. You need one of these on some vehicles in order to bleed the brakes out of. That's something that you would normally consider a mechanical repair. Well, guess what? It becomes a technical repair if you're adding things like high-end scan tools into them. This is not necessarily the highest end scan tool, but it illustrates my point, and it's the scan tool that I have. So stop being all picky about that kind of thing. The point I'm trying to make here is that modern vehicles require a technician's point of view or a technician's touch, even though it's mechanical work. As I said, just in the case of many brake systems, bleeding the brakes, that type of thing, you may run into situations where you need to break out scan tools or other technical equipment to do a mechanical repair or a mechanical service. So Yeah, it's hard to say who's a mechanic and who's a technician these days. But the distinction that I'm making is there are still people, even in that electronic universe, there are still people out there that specialize in certain things, specialize in perhaps the mechanical repair over, say, the electronics, the computer controls, that type of thing. So to make a long story long, that's my point. That's what I'm putting out to you, the group, as the discussion here. That's my take on the difference between a mechanic and a technician. And once again, I'd like to say, I vote that all of us working in the mechanical field these days, professionally, should be considered technicians because of the kind of things that we deal with. Even oil changes sometimes. Some of those Audis, you can't even access a drain plug. You got to hook up a special machine to suck it all out through the dipstick tube. You know, we've talked about this in other videos. The advent and the technologies and the engineering that are going into vehicles today are very different, and we're having to adapt to these things. And because I'm throwing everybody under that umbrella of being a technician, I think the pay should go up with it. And I think we should be treated as such. I think we should be treated as the same people that do technical work in other fields. Yeah, I know, fat chance. Fat chance that anybody's going to get a raise. But if it were up to me, I'd give you all raises because you all deserve it in my eyes, because of the type of work you do, the stress you deal with, and all the other BS that comes into your life as a result of being an automotive technician. Well, I'm going to put this discussion out to the group and see what your take is on it. Once again, like I said, I'll put a link in the description to the suggestion box. There will also be a link down there for a discussion about this video, and feel free to comment, subscribe, and rate as well. Do that. You know, give me the thumbs up. I like that. Outside of that, if you have automotive questions that were not addressed in this video, I would ask that you head over to ericthecarguy.com. There's a welcome video there to let you know about all of our amazing features to help you with automotive issues, should you have them. If you wish to connect with me socially, I can be found on Google+, Facebook, Twitter, and now Instagram. I post ETCG1 videos on Mondays, so stop back and see me then. And I close each of my videos with be safe, have fun, stay dirty. Technician or mechanic? You decide.